Everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Odyssey of the Mind informational meeting. We are delighted that you are interested in participating in Odyssey of the Mind this year. It is a very awesome program, and we're very fortunate to partner with Dr. Lynn Larson, who is the state director of Odyssey of the Mind. But before Dr. Larson starts the meeting, I'd like to introduce our long-standing board member who's always so very supportive of us, and that is Mr. Jesus Hogan. Mr. Hogan, would you like to greet our guest?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Broomfield. I just want to say that I'm so glad to see the interest in this very, very special and very important program. And I want to thank Dr. Larson for continuing that partnership with the school district and that support. And of course, everybody who works in the school district and the work that it's put into this every year. But there is also a lot of excitement along with the work because, it takes time, it takes energy, but at the same time, it motivates the students. It brings up the best of students. And that is exactly what we're looking for. We want to make sure that the students have opportunities, and we want to make sure that we take advantage of that talent that exists in the minds of the students as much as possible. So given that we have this partnership and we have the staff, the professional staff in the school district that is always willing to take that extra step, we cannot waste this opportunity. And then I want to say to the parents, thank you so much for your interest. Thank you for trusting your students, not only to the school district, but also to this program and many others that are available throughout the district. Because again, working together with the parents and the partnerships and all the staff, and of course I cannot leave behind the superintendent and my colleagues on the Board of Education. We all want to make sure that your students are successful and working together, working hand by hand throughout good times and throughout difficult and challenging times. We can all accomplish that success. So thank you all for being on the call. I'm sure there will be more people interested down the road. So I'm sure this is not it. There will be more. So again, thank you, Dr. Larson, and I hope everybody has a great evening. I'm going to be here listening, and we're here to support your students. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Hogan. It's always a pleasure to have you here supporting us, and I was remiss in not giving you greetings on behalf of our superintendent, Dr. Marnrex Kedziora. He has another meeting. He's going to try to pop into this meeting also, but again, just welcome you on behalf of our superintendent, our executive cabinet. Thank you so much for being here. Our families are so important to us, and we really want to provide programs that support you and your students. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lynn Larson, and she'll give you a little bit of her background in terms of Odyssey of the Mind. Thank you, Dr. Larson, for being here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited to be continuing to support this program in the Moreno Valley District. We have a long-standing partnership between Southern California Odyssey of the Mind and the Moreno Valley District. I'm excited to have teams participate in this program every year, and the support for teachers and teams and students has just been outstanding in this district. So I really appreciate all the support from Lisa, your office, and from the Board of Education and the superintendent. So thank you so much for supporting this program and promoting this program. My background in Odyssey of the Mind, I was a coach for 10 years while our kids were in the program, and we coached our teams to regional, state, and world finals. And after they were done competing, I was asked to step in as the Socal State Director, and this is my 7th year, hard to believe, as the State Director for Southern California Odyssey of the Mind. This year, our season, for those of you who are familiar with Odyssey of the Mind, our season is going to look a little bit different. It is going to be completely virtual. Our regional and state tournaments are going to be virtual this year, and I'm going to talk about that more throughout the presentation this night, so keep an ear open for that information. If you can, in the chat, just let me know your experience in Odyssey, your child's experience. So if this is your first year taking a look at Odyssey of the Mind, just let me know in the chat. If you have years of experience, just let me know so I kind of understand who my audience is. So how many years of experience do you all have in Odyssey of the Mind? Go ahead and put that in the chat. 3rd year. Since 2018, excellent. First year, okay. First year. Third, fourth year. All right, so we have a range of first year OMers to experienced OMers. So that's fine. This presentation will be for everybody. Like I said, even for experienced folks, there's a lot of new things going on this year with virtual. And I'm going to be showing you a lot of things on the screen, and this is recorded so we can get it out to folks who may not have been able to attend tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let me just pop the chat back open for myself so I can see. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, super, thank you. All right, so for this evening, we're going to talk about, for our first timers, we're going to talk specifically about what Odyssey of the Mind is and how exciting our virtual season is going to be this year. We're going to discuss what your students can learn through participating in Odyssey of the Mind, understand the Moreno Valley application process for participating in Odyssey, answer any questions you have about the program and participation, get you excited about creative problem solving, share information that we have available and resources from our state organization, Socal Odyssey, to help you through your Odyssey journey this year. And we already did our introductory poll. So what is Odyssey of the Mind? If you're not familiar with the program, the best way I can explain it in a short amount of time is to imagine a combination of theater and problem solving with a creative twist. So teams of 5 to 7 students get together, they write original scripts, they create their own costumes, props, and scenery, any technical elements that are required, and the teams of students have to work together to produce these incredible solutions that we call beyond the box in Odyssey. We're not just outside the box, we are beyond the box. And what's wonderful about this program, and one of the reasons why I've been involved in it for so long, is that we know that students with talents in many different areas find a unique opportunity to showcase their gifts through this writing of scripts, costumes creation. You can incorporate music, dance, the visual arts, props and scenery construction, engineering, problem solving, leadership, critical thinking, and more. So it doesn't have to be just students who are in GATE programs. We have students in Odyssey of the Mind who have disabilities, who have autism, who have all different kinds of strengths and leadership, and they all thrive in Odyssey of the Mind. So there are 2 performance aspects of Odyssey of the Mind. The first part is what we call the long-term solution. So that's where we have our teams of 5 to 7 students. They choose one of the 5 long-term problems that the organization puts out every year. And we have a separate problem for our primary students who are in grades kindergarten to 2nd grade. Our teams consist of students in age ranges kindergarten to 2nd, 3rd to 5th grade, 6th to 8th grade, or 9th to 12th grade. And this past year, we actually had our first university level team, which I'm going to be talking about as well. So even college university students can participate in this program as well. These groups of students work together this year virtually to solve their chosen problem as creatively as possible. And they're awarded points for the required elements of their problem and style. And that's how students go beyond the problem requirements to really put something unusual and creative into their solution. There is a cost limit for each. There's a low budget. The budget ranges from $125 to $145. That's all they can spend on their solution. And so students have to become very creative and use their creativity to come up with all the elements they need in their solution using that small amount of money. So there's 5 different problems. Problem 1 is always a vehicle type problem. Problem 2 has some type of required technical element to it. Problem 3 is based on classical history. Problem 4 is a balsa wood structure problem. Problem 5 is what we call our performance category. And then again, we have our primary problem for just our kindergarten to grade 2 students. The second part of Odyssey is called spontaneous. And so teams have to also practice on the spot spontaneous problem solving. And again, we'll be doing that virtually this year. These are problems that teams have to get together, solve on the spot, and it's usually solved within 10 minutes or so. And we're going to try a spontaneous problem tonight just to get you in the creative problem solving mode. And so I want you all to think for a moment, name a state. So you want to try and come up with as creative a response as possible to name a state. And when you think of something, go ahead and type it into the chat pod and we'll see what you all come up with. Name a state. State of mind, Arizona. What other responses can you think of for name a state? Consciousness, ooh, that's a good one. Freedom, matter, excellent. All right, those are all great responses. So in Odyssey, when we look at spontaneous, we look at what we call creative responses and common responses. And common responses are things that people would commonly think of when asked a question, and creative are those responses that go kind of beyond what everyone would think of when they immediately think of an answer to that question. So some common responses would be naming a particular state of the United States, like California, Texas. We heard Arizona in the chat pod. Creative responses, and some of these are similar to what was shared in the chat pod as well. State of matter, State Department. And also we can do plays on words. So you can see here, statement, it has the word state in it. Same thing with understated. And someone said state of consciousness, we have state of confusion. So those would be considered creative responses. And when students participate in spontaneous, we want them to come up with as creative responses as possible. There are different types of spontaneous. There are what we call verbal spontaneous, and this requires teams to give verbal responses out loud that may incorporate improvisation or dramatization. Excuse me, it's been a long day. And then hands-on, which requires teams to create some type of building structure where they have to build something, a tangible solution, something you can touch. And then verbal hands-on is the last type of spontaneous. And this requires teams to create some type of touchable structure or solution that includes a verbal component as well. And when teams go into spontaneous at the tournament, they don't know what type of spontaneous problem they're going to get. So we always encourage teams to practice all three types. One of the foundations of Odyssey of the Mind is using different kinds of brainstorming techniques. And this is a common one that we encourage our coaches to use. It's called the Scamper technique. And we want students, when they're putting together their long-term and their spontaneous solutions, to think about ways to look at things differently. And I'm not going to read through all these right now, but we want them to think about how they can substitute something, combine, adapt it, modify it, use it for a different purpose than what it was intended, elaborate, or reverse. And these things all encourage students to think about things in different ways, and that's one of the foundational elements of Odyssey of the Mind. So what do students learn as they participate in Odyssey of the Mind? All kinds of things related to all aspects of developing their solution and participating in spontaneous. All of the Common Core California standards for the different subject areas can be addressed in various ways. We hear a lot about STEM and STEAM. We definitely have elements of that involved in solutions as well. 21st century skills. Every time they're getting together, they're working on teamwork, cooperation, collaboration. They have to hone their decision-making skills, creative and spontaneous problem solving, critical thinking, creative writing, visual and performing arts. Soft skills such as how to talk to adults. They have to be able to explain their solution to the officials that are involved in the program. Budgeting, they have to work within the budget that's given them, so they have to learn some budgeting. I'm sure parents would all be excited to have their kids learn about budgeting. Engineering, building, and they learn that the process is more important than the end result, because we know that students who participate in Odyssey of the Mind learn so much as they're going through the process of developing their solution. That's really at the end of the day, no matter how they do at the tournament, they've learned so much just by working with other kids and doing all the things that are involved in creating their solution. And again, the beyond the box thinking. If you're interested in seeing some sample performances, it's helpful to see what the end result may look like. And we don't have time to go to YouTube and share some of those tonight. But if you go to YouTube, you can search for Odyssey of the Mind World Finals, or this year you might want to search for Virtual World Finals. And you can see videos of teams that have advanced past regional and state tournaments and see their solutions. And it gives you an idea of some of the incredible things that students were able to come up with. The two pictures on the screen are from World Finals from the year before last. And these were California teams, and you can see some of the really cool pieces of scenery and the costumes and so on that were involved in their solution. Here's some examples. I just pulled some pictures from our team's props, scenery, and costumes from past years, just again to give you an idea. These are props and scenery and technical elements that were created by a high school team that went to World Finals. And you can see students had some artistic abilities. The scenery was all painted by hand by team members. They had technical skills. They were able to build a Jensen machine with Legos. And that machine, it's a spider machine that walks across like this. And it could walk across the piece of scenery. One year they did the vehicle challenge and they built a vehicle that they could ride on. And they built another small vehicle out that was powered by a mousetrap for another solution that they had. So again, all types of skills and abilities and talents are incorporated into Odyssey. This is another example from a prior year team. They had a fairly large piece of scenery and they had a lot of props that year. And so they wanted to come up with a way to organize all of the props that they had to use during their solution. And so they came up with this whole system of, you can see the pockets there with all of their different prop elements. They had a reminder on the back of the scenery to sing loudly during one part of their play. And they had everything stacked in an exact order for what it was used during the play. So they could go back, grab what they wanted, use it, and then come back and the next element was ready to go. So they devised this system as they began to practice their play and realized that they had so many props, they had to figure out a way to organize it so the play could run smoothly. And this was the system that the team members themselves came up with. All right, so what is OM going to look like for Moreno Valley teams and in the state this year? Like I mentioned at the beginning, we are going to have everything virtual this year. We want all teams to follow your district, your county, your state guidelines in terms of social distancing. And so we have developed training materials for coaches to be able to work with their teams completely virtually. There is no need for teams to be in the same room to work together this year in order to participate on Odyssey of the Mind. We want everyone to stay safe, to stay healthy, and to keep those around them safe and healthy as well. So there is no expectation or need for teams to be physically in the same place in order to participate in Odyssey this year. Now, if things change radically and we're able to, and teams are able to meet in person, then your team can shift to meeting in person. But for the time being, we want all teams to be meeting and practicing virtually until you get the clearance from your district and county to be able to meet together. We know that teams can successfully hold practices for long-term and spontaneous as well as create all long-term elements virtually. We have so many resources available on our website. We've developed an entire new training program for our coaches with online modules and a live follow-up webinar. So all coach training can be done virtually as well. And I'm going to show you some of those resources in just a while. And I'm also going to show you a little bit. I was actually on an Odyssey of the Mind team as a competitor for the first time for the Virtual World Finals this past year. I was so excited to finally get a chance to be a participant. I'd always coached, but I had never participated in the program myself. And so myself, family members, and a friend of ours who's a Odyssey of the Mind coach decided to put together a performance for the Virtual World Finals. And we ended up winning. We were world champions for our Division 4 Problem 5. And so I have some things to show you about how our team went about organizing our practices and all of our paperwork and so on online. So trust me, I know it can be done. And so I'm excited about what our teams are going to be able to do this year. So for the virtual competition, teams are going to record their long-term solution for judges and submit all paperwork and videos online by the due date. I'm going to talk about what that is in just a moment. Teams will then complete a spontaneous problem live again, virtually on an assigned day. And the way it worked for virtual world finals this past spring was that teams were given a 3-day window to be able to go online and complete their spontaneous. So you are able to get together with your team and do spontaneous at a time when everyone's available. Students are rewarded for how they apply their imagination, creativity, knowledge, and talents, and not for giving the right answer. There's no right answer in Odyssey of the Mind. And you want the judges to say, how did they come up with that? Like, we never would have guessed in a million years that they would have been able to think of that, come up with that, develop that. Wow, how did they do that? That's what judges are looking for. So again, the Socal Odyssey of the Mind season will be virtual. Regional performance videos and your paperwork will be due March 1st, 2021. I'm sorry, I have a typo in there. I've marched twice. So March 1st is the due date for your long-term performance videos and paperwork. And then spontaneous will be scheduled for the following weekend. Like I said before, all coach training will be virtual this year, and it's going to be run by the state. So for those of you who have coached before, normally we've had regional training run by our RDs, but since we developed this new training program, all of the training for all coaches in all 4 regions it's going to be run by the state this year. And every coach must complete the new on-training modules and attend one of the 3 live webinars before the team can register for the regional tournament. So even if you're an experienced coach, because so much is different because of us doing virtual this year, we want all of our coaches to go through that training. And it's not very long. It takes about an hour and a half for the online modules, and then the webinar is going to be about an hour and a half. So it's actually a smaller amount of time than some of our previous coach trainings. The state tournament, so top teams advancing from the regional tournament must have all their videos and paperwork submitted online no later than April 12th. So you have some time between regionals and state. We need to get everything scored, let people know who's advanced. And then our state tournament due date is April 12th. And then again, spontaneous is going to be scheduled for the weekend after that. World finals, there are going to be possibly 2 options this year. If they're able to hold an in-person world finals, SoCal teams advancing from our state tournament can choose to attend if you have the traditional membership, which Moreno Valley does. So if this event is able to be held, it will occur in late May at Michigan State University. Or all SoCal teams advancing from our SoCal State Tournament can participate in the virtual World Finals, and this event will take place in early June. And this is again where teams would submit their videos and their paperwork, and then they would be scored by World Finals judges. All right, in terms of commitment required, most Odyssey of the Mind teams meet weekly and sometimes twice weekly the closer it gets to the tournament submission date. We expect appropriate team member behavior from all team members. That means commitment, coming to practices, doing what needs to be done in between practices. Maybe you need to work on the script, or you need to make your costume or work on a piece of scenery or a prop. So we expect if team members say they're going to do something, we want them to follow through and do that. You agree that you can participate in the regional and state tournaments and work with your team to have your videos and paperwork ready to go. Have appropriate support for your team. You may, as parents, find out that various household items start disappearing and showing up in various props and scenery and costumes, so be aware of that. And so your kids might be asking you for items for those. And we still will need volunteers for our competitions, even though they're not going to be at a school site. We're still going to need virtual judges and other folks to help us out with the tournament. So we will be asking for that help like we normally do. So what can parents specifically do if you're not coaching a team? There are specific rules about outside assistance. And so your coach can talk to you about what kind of support you can provide and can't provide to your students. We want this process to be completely kid-driven. And so no parents should be sewing costumes, making props and scenery, writing any aspect of the script. It all needs to be done by the kids. We can show them how to do something in general. Like I showed team members how to use my sewing machine, but then it was up to them to use the sewing machine to make their own costume. My husband taught some of our kids how to use various power tools and hammers and nails and things like that, but then it was their responsibility to actually use those things to make their props and scenery. You can also provide transportation, trips to thrift stores for things, or to Home Depot or Lowe's for whatever items they may need for their solutions. We would love to have some parents co-coach with teachers so that we have some support there. Excuse me. And then, like I mentioned before, we need volunteers or recruit family members to help us out near tournament time. Moreno Valley has their application online this year. So for those of you who normally attend our parent information in person, we hand out paper applications and you turn them into your school site. This year, I'm super excited. Lisa and the staff in the office there worked hard to get your application online, and we're going to take a look at that in just a moment. So if your child is interested in participating, be sure to go over the application with them before submitting. And then teams in your district will be formed based on student and coach availability. I don't think we've ever turned anybody away in the past in Moreno Valley, but again, this is a different kind of year. We certainly want everyone who wants to participate to have an opportunity to be on a team. But it all comes down to coach availability as well. If you're interested in seeing a synopsis of what this year's problems are, so a short description, you can go to odysseyofthemind.com and click on the 2021 problem synopses, and those will give you a brief paragraph describing what each problem is like this year. So your next steps, if your child is interested in participating, team members, you'll want to fill out that district application, and then you'll get connected with a coach and team, and then you'll meet with your team and your coach and decide which problem you want to solve and get your process going. For coaches, we need you as soon as possible to complete the new online coach training. We will be sending out an email at the end of this week or beginning of next week to all current and former coaches, letting them know how to access that training and then when the webinars are going to be. You can always contact me for information as well. I'm the state director and I answer all email promptly. So if you have a question, you can always reach out at socaldirector@socalodyssey.org. We have our Socal Odyssey website, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, and some great resources we already have for coaches available there. We do have a YouTube channel with some videos that are available for coaches who are working in a virtual format this year. And then the national website also has information. So Daniel asked in the chat, can siblings be on the team even if they are out of the age ranges? So that's a really good question, Daniel. And siblings can be on the same team. The team would then compete in the division for the oldest child. So let's say you had a second grader and a fifth grader, and they wanted to be on the same team. Then that team would have to compete at the elementary division, which is 3rd through 5th grade. And we've had a couple of years ago at World Finals, we had a high school team who had a second grader sibling on their team and for structure, and they actually won World Finals. So it is possible. It has been done before. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and that team was very successful. She was actually the one who placed their structure on what we call the crusher board. And she had a pretty important role in the play besides that as well. So they were able to, you know, she was able to participate to the fullest extent, and they won World Finals. So that was very exciting. All right, feel free to keep asking questions in the chat pod. I'm going to show you a couple of resources that we have available. This is our socalodyssey.org website. There's lots of great information here. Specifically this year, a new section is under the coaches tab. If you just hover over coaches, you can see this second option here is called Virtual Journey Tools. And if you click on that, it will take you to another link, which takes you to a folder that I'm keeping updated with resources for coaches for this virtual season. And so there's a folder with some handouts and documents. There's some information on script writing and some quick tips for coaching. There's the presentations that we use for the videos that are here. All of these videos are also on our YouTube channel. And then what I do is I have updated this document. It's kind of a table of contents for what's in the folder so that you can see what's there and when things have been added. So that's on our Socal Odyssey website. This is the link for, excuse me, for your Odyssey of the Mind application. And Lisa, I think there's a bit.ly link that's a little bit shorter rather than me copying and pasting that longer link into the chat pod. If you can't find that, I can just copy this and put it in the chat pod, but either way.
Rosa, did you have the other link, the shorter link?
Yes, I'm gonna type it in right now.
Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you so much. So the link for this will be in the chat pod shortly, so you can copy and paste it. And it has all the elements of our paper application, and I'm really excited that this is online this year. So it asks for some contact information, where your child is, grade, school, parent, guardian, and name, and some contact information. You read through some statements about, you understand what the commitment is going to be for both you and the child. And then elements that you feel your child can contribute to the Odyssey team. And then you look at the various problems, and the student ranks which problem they think they would like to be involved in more. So it's a very straightforward application, and then you fill that out and click submit. Don't forget to click submit at the bottom, and then that will record your responses, and they will get those at the district, and we can see who is actually interested and available to be on a team this year. This is what our Socal training will look like for the coaches. And we're very grateful to Colorado Odyssey of the Mind for sharing their training program with us. And we were able to adapt it to California. And so you can see there's training specific to the long-term aspect of the problem, spontaneous style, and then some kind of wrap-up topics. And so this will be the training that our coaches will go through. Just to give you an idea of what a virtual season can look like, this is a folder of materials that my team and I put together for our World Finals solution. And so there's different paperwork that teams always have to bring to the tournament. And so instead of bringing paper copies, we do all of that work online and turn them into PDFs so that we can submit them online. I'm sorry. And so, and in addition, we're able to submit photographs for our style elements. And so we put together a document that showed pictures of the various elements that we wanted scored for style. And we're able to include elements of, the various elements we wanted scored and how we wanted them scored. There's other paperwork that teams have to submit. And again, we're able to type this all up and submit it virtually so that all the judges could see what they wanted to score. I'm not going to play our whole solution, but I just wanted to show you how we were able to record our performance. And so we had to have, quote, masses, which was a large group of people involved in our solution. So we actually recorded that in Zoom. And then you can see the 3 active participants on our team were in Zoom windows, and we were able to record that in a Zoom meeting and record our performance that way. And so it's a different way of doing Odyssey, but for those of you who have seen Odyssey performances before, you can see that some of these elements look familiar to you. We have props and scenery. Catherine here was up in Northern California, and Hannah and I was in the garage and Hannah was in our dining room. And so we were recording on different devices, broadcasting into Zoom, and we captured our recording in Zoom, and we were able to submit that to the judges. So that was our performance. And then at the end of our performance, which was really cool, because normally at the end of a performance, you spend time talking to the judges about your performance and explaining your solutions. So we obviously don't have a chance to do that because we're submitting all of our paperwork and videos online. And so in the virtual season, you're able to submit a 7-minute video explaining to the judges who made what the various elements were, and so on. And this was a really fun opportunity to talk through the process that our team had for creating our props and our scenery and our costumes and our thinking behind how we designed our play. So this is me describing the piece of scenery that I created and the backdrop that I made out in my garage and the various things and how they worked. This is Catherine talking through her various elements. As you can see, we had a sea beach theme for our performance. So she talked about how she made her various elements of her props and scenery and her costume. And then we talked through Hannah's elements. So that's just a brief example about how teams can create a virtual performance and showcase it for the judges. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and see what questions you all might have. Any questions about how Odyssey works or how a virtual season might work? All right, well, I'm not hearing or seeing any questions. And so the next step for student participants is to talk this over with your family and see if it's something that you would like to participate in. And if it is, to go ahead and fill out the online application and get that submitted as soon as possible. Lisa or Rosa, do we have a due date for that?
Rosa's the boss.
We're giving them 2 weeks, so it will be by October. I believe we picked October
12th.
12th. Yes.
All right, so right around October 12th, be sure to click on the application link here and fill that out if you're interested in being on a team. And then we'll take a look at who wants to participate and what coaches we have available and start assigning kids to teams so that they can participate. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to Ms. Broomfield or Rosa or myself, and we can get those questions answered for you. We want you to feel comfortable with what you're signing up for and that you know that you'll have the support you need to have a successful season. All right, any other questions we can answer for you tonight? All right, well, thank you.
I have one.
Go right ahead.
I'm sorry. I totally forgot about this. I'm looking at the debate on the TV, and I totally forgot that you guys were going to be on. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's
Is
okay.
there any way I can see this recording again?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been recording. I'm going to get that downloaded and the link sent over to the district, and then they will make that link available. Lisa, how will they know where to go for that?
Okay, thank you. I don't know why I made this thing a priority. This was my priority. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't worry.
Thank you. Rosa, should we put it on the website, or how would you like to do the link for Odyssey of the recording?